Welcome to the Rich Report, a podcast with news and information on high performance computing. Today, my guest is from OCF in the UK. We have Julian Fielden. He is the managing director of the company. Julian, how are you doing today?
Not too bad, Rich. How are you?
I'm great. It's early in the morning for me, and your day is probably nearly done. But I wanted to get
Yeah,
acquainted.
it's been a good one.
Yeah, well, it's Tuesday's going to be good for me then. If you've already done the time travel, that's good to know. Um, well, I wanted to get acquainted with what you guys are up to, and I guess, why don't we start there? Who is OCF, and who do you help?
So, OCF, we're a high-performance computing integrator in the UK. We deal with all the people that you'd expect who require high-performance computing services, public sector, private sector, and we now expanded our offering into the big data analytics market, and we look after a lot of people who like a lot of big storage and need to manage it.
Yeah. Well, terrific. Well, hey, why don't we go through your slide deck, and we'll go through that, and then we'll do a Q&A at the end. Does that sound good?
Okay, right. So the theme of this is what do we expect to happen in 2015 in UK HPC. From an OCF perspective, there's some interesting stuff that's going to happen, and there's some boring stuff. I don't think there's any real excitement at processor level. Intel still rules. Interconnects may improve with OmniScale and EDR maybe next year. Accelerators continue to be played with. Storage, again, quite boring. I think a bit more capacity with 6 terabyte drives and 10 terabyte tapes, and got this interesting thing with DDN, the infinite memory engine. And software-defined storage. What is that? There are various definitions there. I think we've been doing it quite a while with GPFS and elastic storage. And so, instead of just looking at it that way, let's have a look at it another way. So if you go to the next slide. First major driver in the UK is that we've got a forward-thinking government. If you look at the way that the UK is going, the government is investing. In 2011, it found 145 million for HPC with the e-infrastructure campaign. Amazingly, they found it in about November, and it had to be spent by March, so that was a good challenge. Really enjoyed that. Later, coming up to date, they found £73 million for big data, £42 million for an Alan Turing Institute, £200 million for a science institute in the north of England to look at material science, and the Hartree Centre got another £113 million. Now, the Hartree Centre, that's phase 3 for the Hartree Centre. This third phase is now to do with cognitive computing, which is very IBM-y, and IBM is a major partner together with ourselves at the Hartree Centre, so that's going to be very interesting. The Hartree Centre is set up, its whole aim is to help UK PLC utilise HPC and big data analytics to achieve better outcomes. Good stuff. So, the fact that 80% of our business is in the public sector, clearly we're very excited by the fact that the UK government is continuing to find money. The rationale is that they think that it generates high-value jobs and adds to the intellectual capacity of the nation. So it's very good. I think that the government's likely to continue funding in 2015. You may not know, but we've got a big election over here next year, and they like good news stories, and these big projects tend to create good news stories. Downside of the interest of the government in high performance computing is that they are now saying that anybody that receives government funding for research should make their research available to anybody with an internet connection. So that's interesting. That is an interesting research data management challenge, and you can look at it really as the government's price for their support.
Are we talking about including foreign people outside of the UK? They have internet.
I believe so. I believe it's anybody. I mean, we're not totally nationalistic over here, and we're working for the good of the world as well as the UK. And so I think that it is the world, the internet. So the big opportunity and the challenge is, if you go to the next slide, research data management. So there's some interesting bits of government speak. David Willits, who was the Minister for Universities until not too long ago. We've got 1% of the world's population. We've got 4% of the world's researchers. We produce 6% of the world's academic articles, and 14% of those are most highly cited. So we're very, very productive with our research. The question is whether or not we do enough with it. This new mandate from the government is that the data, the results of the research must be available within 12 months of being generated and need to be preserved for 10 years after the last access. So that's interesting. So 11 months, somebody downloads it, boom, you've got to keep it for another 10 years. So if you think about that, that's a major challenge for UK universities and the like, where currently they've got data on pen drives, they've got it on desktops, laptops, all sorts of things. They've really got to give some thought to this particular challenge if they want to continue to receive funding and get recognition for their papers.
Right.
As you know, that's
right.
What academics are all about.
The problem is these machines don't last for 10 years that this stuff lives on. Maybe a thumb drive might, but your laptop, you'd be way lucky if it was still running 10 years from now to get at that file.
So you've got to have more of a centralized system now. And but I mean, we've designed a system that we will be sort of taking to market next year. We're trialing it with a couple of universities at the moment, and it really is sort of a soup to nuts type solution, where the big problem is really not at the front end. I mean, at the front end, if you think the big problem is people don't really want to share their data when they're still doing the research, because it's their USP. But then later on, 5 years down the line, they're not really that bothered about it, but somebody might be. And it has to be available to them now. So universities now have to think about doing something, even if it's doing positively nothing. That's a public strategy, I think, and so that will be an interesting year next year.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's a major. I think that's a major sort of public sector. Interesting point for next year. What about the private sector? So if we flick over to the next slide, one question can be asked is, in the UK, is the private sector lagging the public sector? The public sector, we have got this pretty strong investment stream coming from the government. Is the private sector keeping up? And I think it's hard to tell. I don't really take a great deal of notice of IDC and all these stats. They're always at too high a level, world level and whatever. But as regards to the UK, I don't think we can tell. And one of the real reasons why it's hard for us to tell is the problem of opportunity identification. We don't really know what's going on. The public sector, if they're going to buy anything, they have to put it in the European Journal. everybody can see it, and we know what's going on. The private sector, somebody wants a small cluster, they'll go out and buy a small cluster, and that's difficult for us to log. My view is that the missing middle thing, if you like, is still there. And how do you address the
still missing
middle? The two ways in which I think are really developing and will probably continue to develop over the next 12 months is, firstly, appliance-based. I want to run a code. I'm going to buy an appliance to run the code. Yeah, we've done an interesting thing with ANSYS and IBM, whereby we are trying as a productivity, business productivity sort of tool. We've said, well, really, you should buy ANSYS on an IBM pre-specified system with OCF support, and if you do that, your productivity will increase. Instead of running it on a desktop machine, use a small cluster, use a medium-sized cluster, and you will get more work out of what is now the valuable commodity within this tool chain, the person. And it's interesting when you talk to ANSYS, they like this. 6 years ago, they would never even think of doing this because they were an ISV, and ISVs dealt with everybody. And but now when they analyse their calls, the people calling in saying the thing doesn't work, 60 or 70% of the time it's got nothing to do with their software. So they're now coming round to the idea that let's have a supported offering out there, and this should help productivity. Now I can see that. I can see a lot of ISVs maybe starting to go down that route. So the smaller business productivity type argument can be won over by that sort of approach. Second way, of course, is cloud, and there's still a lot of talk about HPC clouds. I think there's a lot of difficulty with running HPC in the cloud. Obviously, it depends on what you call HPC. A lot of these simple bioinformatics codes can be spun up by one of these cloud companies, and they can have 70,000 processors pointing at a simple solution for an hour, and that's great. But when you're talking about OpenFOAM or something like that, where people need maybe a lot of help in getting the thing to run properly, I think that's more difficult. We have as you know, we have this Encore offering that I think you talked to Jerry about a couple of years ago, and that's still an effective, if difficult, solution. But I think that the other area where the private sector will invest more next year is in analytics and big data. I think that uptake is slow. I mean, we've been working at it for about a year now, and the way I see it work is, you've got to talk to people about getting something or teaching them something about what they don't know about. They don't know that they might get some value out of the data. And so we are talking to quite a few people about running proof of concepts and starting small and then building out. And I think that will succeed. So I think that next year will be a larger amount of our business will come from that, what you might call the business side of computing as opposed to the technical side of HPC. They say it's 75-25 at the moment, technical to business. I think that might sort of slip to 65-35 or 70-30. I think that will be right. So Right. So we've covered the public sector, the private sector. What about specific technologies? So if we flip over to the next slide, still dominated by Intel, really. But we can talk about if we talk about co-processors. I think that we in the UK we don't see them as being heavily used anywhere. I think most people are still trying them out, trying to work out how best to gain value from them. FPGAs might be the one to watch. I mean, they're making a comeback. We work quite strongly with NVIDIA, and they are probably king of the hill at the moment. But who knows what's going to happen with Phi? Interesting. What really interests us next year, I think, is OpenStack. We're now getting a lot of interest in the sort of message behind OpenStack. It's don't get locked in, and increase your productivity. Private clouds, public clouds, and my new technical director, Arif Ali, he really is getting to be a bit of a guru in this stuff, and he's we're taking it to market, and in fact we launched the Red Hat OpenStack user group at the machine evaluation workshop a couple of weeks ago. You'd have been interested to see we had about 35-40 people there, all of them with a red hat on. We give them a red hat and a red hat bottle of beer, and we were very encouraged by the level of interest in OpenStack. And for the one thing I would say, that if at all possible, we would want to supply people with a supported offering in this area. OpenStack looks a bit. When you look at it, it's a bag of bits, isn't it? It really does need bringing together, and I think the Red Hat have done a great job there in formalizing the.
So there's a saying I heard, Julian. It's okay. It said if you have unlimited time, you do OpenStack. If you have unlimited money, you go to VMware. So there you go.
Right. I think we've got a good halfway house now. I think supported OpenStack, I think, could be an interesting. And we've got 2 or 3 major projects that are on the go next year, and we'll see how those turn out. Hopefully, I'll be able to tell you that they didn't need unlimited time, and they don't wish that they'd had an unlimited budget. HPC virtualization. I think that's now going to, as the trade-off between the cost of the processing cost of the hypervisor decreases, and the management simplicity increases. I think that will start to become more interesting, and maybe alongside OpenStack. And I think that appliances. We talked about appliances. I think that they will force simple, single or dual use needs. Then I think that the appliance model will work, and then it will just be a question of get a nice GUI on the front and just plug and play. As regards the thing that seemed to dominate supercomputing was cooling.
Yep.
There's a lot about cooling. I'm a bit. I find it hard to get turned on by immersed cooling. I must admit, having your processors in a bath of water or a bath of oil doesn't quite. I can't quite bring that to me. But the close contact sort of warm water cooling thing, Lenovo have got a good offering there, and I think that will be interesting next year. Open power, I think that's one for the future. I think that we're doing a lot of work with IBM at the moment and NVIDIA, but I think that will be 2016 before anything interesting comes out of that. I think the only thing I really want to say about applications as we're time challenged is that I think ISVs need to continue to get more savvy with their charging models, and and I think that's now starting to happen. For file systems, we're well known for work with GPFS because of our work with IBM. I think that we can now start to look at Lustre a bit more if customers want Lustre, because there are more supported offerings out there with Intel buying one cloud, and we've now got people like Xyratex, DDN, and Red Hat who can supply supported offering. You'll get that I'm a firm believer in support, because I think that the whole idea now for these things is that they're going to be production machines and not projects. Yeah. So, what about vendors? So if you turn on to the next page, vendor shake-up. I think that Lenovo were going to make a big splash this year. As you know, we've worked with IBM for a long, long time, their System X team, and we have won a lot of business despite the fact that it's been with IBM System X. I mean, that business was not really loved within IBM. A commodity business within IBM was very difficult for them to own it. But now we've got all the same people, all fired up, all raring to go, all with it, instead of the mission being, just sell some stuff, but keep the price up, to right, we're going to be number one in the world. Yeah, and if they're going to do that, they're going to have to sell a lot of HPC equipment, because HPC eats up a lot of tin, and that's what they'll want to do. Yeah. So
Well, the jury's out if they can pull that off, because they were not focused on HPC when they did this acquisition. I think they stumbled badly, in my view. But let's see how they do.
Obviously, we know all the team from IBM that's gone over there, and they are like, they're a breath of fresh air. From being sort of downtrodden, we can't do this, we can't do that, to let's do this, let's do that. They're opening up a new HPC Innovation Center in Stuttgart. That'll be interesting. And I predict that they'll get some significant market share against Dell and HP next year. Well, one thing they will need, and if we go to the next slide, is integrators to help them. Yeah. My view is that the vendors now are, there are very few vendors that sell the whole HPC solution. Yeah, and from that point of view, it's becoming more and more important to have a good integrator in the middle of the mix. And in the UK, we're probably it. We've increased our business quite rapidly. We're up now to 24 million pound turnover, which is not a bad size in the UK. And the Streamline were a competitor as an integrator, went bust, and ClusterVision seemed to have more of a European focus than the UK focus, and we tend to just compete now against vendors. But my feeling is that, especially, and what the vendors are now doing is 6 years ago, if we dealt with IBM, we couldn't do with HP, or we couldn't do, because they all got very, very shirty about it. Now they're becoming much more adult about it. They recognise that an integrator has a value within the solution set, and they're becoming much more adult. And so we've been working not just with IBM, but with Fujitsu, DDN, Cray, etc., and we'll continue to do so. And I think that Lenovo will be an important part of that mix.
Well, Julian, we're running out of time here, so I don't know if you got any closing thoughts. I mean, it sounds like the future is bright. The government is vested in the future. I'd like to find a government like that over here, if you got any hints on that. But what would you say?
Well, I mean, to me, to summarise, Intel's still a major player. No real breakthroughs next year. Lenovo, I think, will make people sit up and look. Analytics will come to a bit more to the fore. I've got 2 family weddings next year. My son and daughter are getting married. I've got a 60th birthday. I'm going to go out and play golf at Pebble Beach, which is a magnificent thing. So
nice.
We need to be successful next year so that I can pay for all my private stuff.
I've been out there. It is gorgeous. I'm envious that you get to play. So good for you. All right, Julian. Well, hey, I want to thank you once again for coming on the show today.
Absolute pleasure. Anytime.
Oh, you bet. Okay, folks, that's it for the Rich Report. Stay tuned for more news and information on high performance computing.